It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all, it's time for another red hot, spicy, tingling edition of show, episode 194 as a matter of fact. And for anyone who's been playing along with various games regarding Remington's background, who'd like to guess what is behind him this week. We don't have blinds anymore, so just name a household item that could be behind Remington this week. How's that for a game? So before we show the world, hello Mr. Remington.
Hello.
Do you think anyone's going to guess?
No, I don't think anyone's going to guess this one.
Anyone who says a chair is automatically disqualified, by the way. That doesn't count. We're looking for things behind the chair. Colin says barbecue sauce.
I like barbecue sauce.
But there probably isn't any in your background. Safe to say. Okay, let's reveal what is behind Remington. And it is... Is that a ladder?
I was picking my ear then, sorry. It is a ladder, yeah, it's a loft ladder.
A ladder, what appears to be maybe a mirror and a guitar.
Yes. There you go, I'm glad that entertains you, Andy.
Entertaining. What is behind Remington? I'll have to play that every week. So, have a quick look at the Warhammer community. You'll see why we're not talking about too much. See, 40k, 40k, K,
Right.
K, 40k, kill team, 40k, 40k, K, 40k, K, K, 40k, 40k. So you get the idea with that. Very 40k heavy. So until we get word that your friend Tony might want to appear on the show, and we're not going to be doing too much 40k discussion.
Well, he likes 40k best as well.
Exactly, so if there's any word that maybe we could get him on the show, then we'll swiftly turn it into a 40k show, subtly, so that no one notices the change. But in the meantime, Mantic have given us some nice fantasy miniatures, and even more stuff. Not just Mantic, we've got more juice to look at in it. But these are the new releases from Mantic available to order now. Part of the Rift Forged Orcs. So the 2-player starter set is out with the Rift Forged Orcs and the Halflings in it. And we've got some new models, including a Manticore.
Now, Andy, why is it called a Stormbringer? Isn't that a bit like Stormcast?
Well, they are a little bit like Stormcast in that they're forged in another realm, kind of, and then zapped into...
Good paint job, but
That is a very nicely painted Manticore. Very
Really nice
smooth. Brush strokes there, very nice.
yeah. Has it got a price there?
This one, see if there's a price on here. We'll look at the shop in a second. Article.
£30, I'm going to say. £35.
And there's the Rift Forger, an orc in armour running around stone with hammer, as one does.
Does that do something?
I assume it does. I assume it has some kind of magical powers. Rift Forged Hell Strikers, which are armoured orcs atop flying manticores.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
Are they smaller versions then?
These will be the same size as one, but with wings.
You know what? I mean, Mantic do put out a lot of miniatures, don't they, Andy? Is it quite an international company?
They're definitely ramping up their release schedule. they've been firing them out. The halflings, Riftforged Orcs, two totally new armies. There's a creature, the Amber Orcs, which presumably the Riftforged Orcs befriended a variety of weird interdimensional creatures. Their voyage through the planes. So that's something that they like.
I imagine that would be a really hard paint job. That would, unless you kind of knew what should.
I can imagine a lot of dry brushing. That would go a long way.
Yeah, it's like a stone that's sort of just come to life, isn't it?
It does kind of look that way. Giant beetle. Then we've got the Stormforged Shrine.
Oh, I like this.
So it's an orc, got a pair of hammers, and he's probably bashing away at that. That's
pretty cool, man. Is this a magical thing?
I can only assume that this has very magical powers in.
I mean, it's straight out of dwarf lore, isn't it, really, with runesmiths?
Certainly seems to be in that domain. So if we want to see how much all this stuff costs, let's see what's actually on the store page. All past the relevant. So the Riftforged Orc Mega Army, £110. That lot.
What do you get for that?
You get 4 orcs, you get the hero on foot, you get the hero on manticore, and you get the 3 big like Cyclops ogre dude. For £110.
Now, Andy, as you're a Mantic expert, is this enough for an army? Is like half an army, 3/4?
For a tournament, that's probably not quite going to be enough for a full army, but you're certainly well on your way with that. Then there's the 2-player starter set, which has both halflings and Riftforged Orcs in it. So I'll just open that up, show you what's there.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah, cool.
There's also the Riftforged Orc Army, not the Mega Army. You get slightly less orcs, hero, and you get those guys again. So the lower budget version.
Are those trooper orcs? Are they all the same? Are they kitted out differently?
I believe they can be fitted with different weapons, 2-handed weapons. There's the weapon shield there, which is standard. And there is the Stormforged Shrine, which is £45. Big old chunk of resin, that one.
Right, must be a big model.
Then we've got the Hellstrikers are £40 for 3. And Thunderseers Regiment that we've seen in those army boxes, that's £30 for big Cyclops dude.
So what are these? Are these just like trolls then?
Similar.
Something more.
Some kind of weird creatures that the orcs have come across in their rift forged experience, life, death. Brought them back with them, as far as I can tell. The Storm Slayer, which is another big creature that they've befriended, that's only £25.
These are bigger. Yeah.
That's a nice one. And so let's have a look what you get in the 2-player starter set now.
Who's the baddie in the Avengers films? It looks like the baddie from that.
You know, I haven't even got up to the films that have the baddie in yet.
Oh.
I think I'm like 10 or 15 films behind. So let's have a look at the gallery, see what you get in there. You get those orcs, you get the manticore, that many halflings and a halfling hero as well. And the rulebook and all that good stuff.
You'd have to say, Andy, like, the halflings have got no chance. You know what I mean? When you matching them up, yeah.
There's the halfling mega army. Lots of the halfling units.
If you see these in real life,
I have seen quite a lot of these in real life. Yes.
There are players using halflings.
Yes.
Kings of War. And how did they fare?
They're doing all right. They've been solidly represented in the tournament scene so far, considering they're such a new army.
Have you played any?
I've played against them a couple of times.
What was it like?
Well, it depends, because you can do quite varied things with the army list. A lot of people started out thinking, hey, there's these flying units, they're amazing, I'll just take an army of nothing but that. You saw very flyer-heavy lists, which will obviously catch some people out who don't have enough maybe speed or whatever else you need to deal with flying threat. But then there's also very synergistic halfling armies as well. They have a lot of aura abilities where surrounding certain characters or unit will give them various abilities. So there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. They can also take a troll heavy list with their forest trolls. Quite a few different playstyles available.
Do you have to have like core troops still doing an army?
You do need a certain number of, not necessarily basic troops, but you need regiments, hordes, infantry and cavalry to then unlock the more exciting stuff. You can't have an army of entirely beasts or an army entirely of heroes.
Yes. How much is this halfling mega army?
Halfling mega army. Let's have a look at that right now, as a matter of fact.
That's
also £110 direct from Mantic. So if you were like third-party retailers, it'll be less than that.
Right, it's pretty amazing. I mean, how many models do you get there? 20, 46. Do you get over 100 models in it?
Well, let's have a look, because it'll tell us exactly. 60 infantry, 30 cavalry, 3 heroes on foot, 4 heroes on foot, actually, and the Iron Beast. So it's very close.
95 models, and some of those are big models. That's an amazing value. Amazing.
So, do you think that these halflings and those orcs are the best Mantic models that you've seen?
Oh, they've come close, yeah. I'll have to say that, yeah.
I want to hear what the chat thinks about this, because Mantic have obviously been upping their game over the year. When they started with the Kings of War elves and the Goblin infantry, which weren't much to write home about. But they've definitely taken many, many steps in the right direction. They're showcasing it correctly now. High quality paint jobs on their website and in their store as well. I want to hear what the people think about Mantic's quality of miniatures. They're also moving a lot of their old metal stuff into resin.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I do miss the halfling flyers. You have to buy them separately, don't you?
Yes, let's have a look. See how much back. You don't get them in either of the halfling armies. In the regular halfling army, you do get this harvester, along by a troll. And you can get the aeronauts, £40 for 3. Cool. And
they're actually quite expensive, really, compared to what you get for the other one, right?
Big resin chunks, though.
Are they?
And the forest trolls, £30 for 3.
They look brilliant, don't they? They do.
Certainly. Iron Beast, only £25. Quite a big beastie for the price.
Yeah. If I actually quite like that. I might have to get that. I quite like the trolls. I think if I painted them though, I would paint them with more, tanned flesh, a bit more like ogres.
Reason you couldn't do that. And then
didn't they have the guys with the jetpacks?
We'll get to those in a sec. Got the knights, £22.50 for all those knights.
You don't get them in. These are all like the elite troops, really, aren't they?
Yes. And then the grenadiers are £22.50 for 3.
They're brilliant.
He's spicy in the game as well.
So you can basically get the whole shebang for about 220.
You could definitely, if you're spending like £200 on your army, you'd be able to get enough to field at a tournament without much. Obviously, there are certain things that would be more optimal if you were trying to build a tournament list in terms of spending. Some things, like halfling infantry, they're going to be quite numerous, but they're not going to be that many points. So if you were focusing mainly on infantry, you'd have to spend more. And more time. So there you go. Forged orcs and halflings. Exciting times. Colin loves the new goblins. So let's have a look at the goblins, because some of those are quite new as well. So the newer goblin. Giant isn't that new. Trolls are Mincer is old. The infantry are new. The slasher, quite a new one.
Now, Andy, didn't you have a goblin?
The Goblin Army, I do have a Goblin Army for King. I don't have many of the newer models.
You've got Night Stalkers, you've got goblins, and you've got the
Abyssal dwarves, undead, dead halflings. So I've got quite a bit. These flea bags are old, but they are very nice models if you can tolerate the mold lines, and if you can tolerate them not quite fitting together without hot water. Giant, Mantic Giant, one of the better value giants out there, £30. Big old fella. Goblin Luggets, which are new, kind of harder hitting Goblin infantry unit. Nice. Wing It, I have got one of these, but I've not painted it yet. In fact, it's up on a shelf next to me. You got brown on it at the moment.
That's terrific, that is.
Like a bat. And then there's the regular Goblin Infantry, which are way, way, way better than the old one. The old Goblin plastics from Mantic were quite poor. Ones are very quality indeed.
The noses look like Games Workshop Noblars, don't they?
They do a little bit. War machines. On this page, you might have seen all the stuff now. That's a fairly recent. Or Vanguard is not that old. It's only a few years. Anything else that's new? I think the Goblin King on Moorbeast is quite recent. Nice. Yeah, because there weren't really too many characters on Moorbeasts when I started my Goblins, so I ended up converting a lot of my own. Moorpup Launcher is a fairly new one as well. Firing freezed puppies in battle.
That's amazing.
I have actually got one of these, but again, not painted it because I'm waiting on adding goblins.
Are they very effective?
They are actually Moorpup Launcher, quite well regarded. Not only can you shoot the enemy with them, you can also refresh the stock of Moorpups in your own troops.
I got you.
Goblin Whiz on a Moorbeast, that's quite a new one. Flag It on Moorbeast, also one.
What does that one do then?
The one with the flag just runs around inspiring the troops.
Right.
And then typically, if you're taking one of those, you would probably put some kind of magical upgrade on it. So it could also do something else. And there is the Bang It, who is obviously very explodey. Another new. I think, oh, the Sting It, like an assassin goblin. Saying we've seen all the new ones, then I'm spotting more. I don't know if this. Yeah, there's lots of stuff out there. Realms. For anyone that maybe looked at them a few years ago and the models weren't that great, we have another look. Let's see what people are saying in the chat, because it's a house in there. So Colin is saying that the Cyclops, the Riftforged Orcs, tortured Cyclops from the Abyss, see the future and live it. So they see the torture and live it twice. Oh, that sounds lovely. And it drives them insane. Well, I imagine it would. Stu in the house as well. Colin says, love the new Goblins. Look like they're from Labyrinth. See that? So, on the topic of Mantic miniatures, I'll show you what I've been working on.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun. So these are my Night Stalker Shadowhounds.
Ooh. Wow. Are these official models?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
So taking a break from working on this thing, starting to come together. I've just applied some purple to it so far. Big monstrosity. And working on some regular units, because you can't just field an army of nothing but giant monstrosities. I'd like to. So, Shadowhounds. Shall we do the unfair high level of scrutiny zoom in on them?
Yeah.
So the one downside to these models is that they have a mould line that runs across their teeth. But it's not that obvious, really. Shiny saliva action going on. And I put these in hot water so I could reposition the legs because they were the same pose. If you get the box of them, they do come with some resin ones in there as well that you can put in different poses. So they're not all identical, but these ones are all identical. They're from, I think they're from the Vanguard Warband. Someone had multiple Vanguard Warbands, the Night Stalker. Bit of hot water, pose the legs.
How hot does it need to be?
Well, I usually just put them straight into boiling water. I don't know if it needs to be that hot.
And then you can just reconfigure it.
Yeah, because these ones are resin plastic. So I find that very easy to repose. I would typically put that in boiling water. I don't know if I would trust resin, pure resin in boiling water. I might just use warm water for resin. So when I was painting these guys, I didn't have a particular plan in mind how I was going to do them. Thought pale could be quite a good look for them. So I started putting contrast paints on, washing them and dry brushing white and applying white onto raised areas and just doing that over and over again until it got to a point where I thought it looked really good. Left it there.
I'm just checking out the Northern Alliance.
Yes, they're very nice as well, actually.
Yeah, they look. They could be Chaos Marauders, couldn't they? I suppose. They look great.
Yes, we'll have a look at the Northern Alliance in a second after I've shown you the other unit that I painted this week.
Yeah.
So these are Needle Fangs. Now these weird kind of nightmarish insects that come out of this cloud. Magical flame. So it's just legs and teeth and saliva coming out of the mist. They're basically like swarms.
There's so many models, isn't there? So many different types.
And these will behave in the way that swarms typically behave in mass battle games. Chuck them in the way of the enemy. Robert says, love the Night Stalkers, planning on doing them next after I've finished my Northern Alliance. These certainly hope they do.
What about these scarecrow hordes?
Scarecrows, I've actually got about 50 of them assembled, and I've got another box of them sitting up on the shelf. So I need to do loads of scarecrows. I think they're going to be mainly contrast paints and dry brushing. So many of them I need to do.
Yeah, so that's like the rank and file.
Yeah, you don't need to use scarecrows for that, but typically people do because they're kind of like zombies. They're just really inexpensive, and the more of them you have, you can unlock the more fun stuff, which I obviously have a lot of as well.
Now, I'm looking also at the Night Stalker Warband booster, and you get this thing called the Mind Screech, and it's a giant eye with a brain.
Yes. I actually tell you that I'm working on one of those right now as well, actually.
It's crazy, man. What is that, like the general of the army or something?
It's not. It's like a magical floating nightmare creature that zaps lightning bolts off at the enemy with its mind.
So what excites you about this army?
The thing that excited me about it was the fact that you can just stick tentacles and faces on everything.
Yeah.
So you can see the standard Shadowhulk, and then obviously mine, based on... My first Shadowhulk was based on the same Mantic giant that this is based on. But obviously it's more tentacly and even weirder than this one. And the one I'm working on right now is based on the GW Mega Gargant, but with loads of Mantic bits on it. So it just allows you to be crazy when you're building things. Like when I look at this Terra model here with all the tentacles, I actually think I've already used the mouth for that on my Shadowhulk, so I don't want to actually get this model. So I'd probably get one of the other big, hideous Mantic monsters, maybe from one of the different armies, and just put a load of weird stuff on it, make it look.
Mm-hmm.
Just allows you to go tentacle crazy. And then they have these guys. I'm probably going to get some of these. Currently, they're so hot right now. These soul flame.
Yeah, they're like kind of like hex wraiths, aren't they?
They do look a bit like that, yes. Scarecrows, obviously, you need billions of them. And the Fiends, I'm not sure about getting any Fiends because I've used different models for Dread Fiends, which are like heroes. I'm working on Reapers now, actually. These guys I've put up on the screen here. I can give a sneak preview of where I'm up to with them. So they're in a bit of a pale colour as well, but they're not finished yet. They've started. And I made, I think it's called like the Reaper Soul Drinker or something. It's like the special version. And I've put extra arms on it. A face. Don't know how well you can see it. Camera there.
Grotesque.
Yes. So the Night Stalker is one of the newer armies, obviously. Very nice. There are the Shadowhounds. I prefer my colour scheme actually to the official Shadowhound scheme there.
Andy, are there any armies that you've not yet faced?
That I've never faced.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the list here. There's Forces of Nature, Northern Alliance, Salamanders.
Well, let me drop down here. I don't think I've faced Rift-Forged Orcs yet because they're so new.
Yeah. Trident Realm of Nereptica.
I've faced Halflings, Abyssal Dwarves, Basilean, Dwarves, Elves, Nature, Empire of Dust, Ogres, Orcs, Salamanders, Ratkin, Trident Realms, Undead. Yes, I've faced every army apart from Rift-Forged Orcs.
Wow. And you've beaten every army, haven't you? You've won so many competitions.
I'm pretty sure I've beaten every army. Probably.
Which was one of the harder armies to face? I mean, obviously it depends on who's commanding them.
I think with Kings of War, I don't think there are really hard armies in the traditional sense. I think it's more about the player. I think it's more down to player skill and selection of individual units rather than just the army. I think they're all fairly well balanced.
Well, because in Age of Sigmar, things are being rebalanced all the time, aren't they? So it doesn't seem to be a problem in that.
Well, with Kings of War, they rebalance all the armies at the same time with the yearly update. They don't have, generally, they don't have a new army that comes out and messes up the meta, if you will. It doesn't happen very often. I think Halflings are maybe the only one where a Halfling beta list came out. That skewed things a bit, but in general, everyone is balanced together as a whole. There are some armies when you see them on the table that are a bit more intimidating, worrying, depending on what you've got. So ogres are an interesting one because with certain armies, when I look at ogres, I think any one of their units can hit any one of my units, and with a small amount of luck, they can just kill that unit in one go because ogres are just generally powerful units. But if I'm taking loads of war machines and I see nothing but ogres against me, thinking, yes, because ogres, although they're really powerful, a good solid hit on them at range will kill a unit in one go. And I can also see them very easily because they're taller than regular infantry, so I can see over the top of my own troops with war machines. So it depends what you've got in your army, the kind of thing that's scary. I think elves are generally, at various points in history, elves have been considered very good. Good dragons.
Yeah, they're perhaps the spindliest models I've ever seen.
Salamanders, I think, are quite good right now. Lizard people. Undead are supposed to be powerful at the moment. But you can make so many different kinds of armies with the undead because there's options in the list. That just seeing undead on paper, you don't know if it's going to be anything you need to worry about for your list, really. See which you... And even goblins. Some people take a lot of goblins. My goblin army is usually mostly trolls. So it's barely even a goblin army. Now, you were having a little look at the Northern Alliance. Because I've always had them down as one of the armies that I like, but I haven't really had time for yet. Depends if anything catches my eye before I get round to playing Northern Alliance, really.
Yeah.
They do have some really nice models. King on Chimera is very cool. Apparently the hot thing is the Lord on Frostfang, which would be one of these with a Lord on it. Take a few of those in there. Ice Elementals, they're good. Quite a bit of them. Tournaments. Don't see as many Snow Trolls. See more Ice Elementals than Snow Trolls.
Yeah, I mean, I like the humanoid best.
Just a nice range.
What's
Combination.
their fighty army?
Fighty army.
They like, you know, good in combat.
Oh, Northern Alliance. Yeah, they're good in combat. They have some decent spells as well. They have some things that can kind of slow you down when they hit you with their freeze attack. And hit pretty hard. Especially the cavalry, giant monsters. This stuff. Frostfangs. Very hard. Things like snow trolls and ice elementals hard as well. I'm not sure if I've seen them win many tournaments, but I've seen them do alright. They're definitely cool though. Don't see a lot of the war machines. Seen too many of those. Tavern Dweller.
Looks a bit like a deck chair, that does. Ice bolt thrower.
The ammo does look a bit like a deck. Tavern Dweller, I don't recall seeing too many of those out on the model still. Yeah, they're a cool army, literally.
So, are you down to play another tournament soon?
Soon, I'm not sure if I'm down for one soon, but I've got some lined up for the year. I need to have another look at the tournament calendar and try and pick out some closer ones. The next one I'm actually booked in for isn't for maybe three or 4 months. I've got quite a few in the mid and end of the year, kind of zone.
Yeah.
Some more imminent events. I've got some dead zone ones, but it does give me time to maybe finish my Night Stalkers, get them like yeah. So, let's see. Want to hear what more people think about all this? Whether Mantic's models measure up? Colin says they look very Resident Evil. I assume he's talking about these Shadowhounds. They do look very Resident.
Yeah.
Now, there's something else that I wanted to look at this week. Is a Ghoul Kickstarter that I saw. And yeah, ghouls. You can't go wrong with ghouls. This is from Heresy Miniatures and plastic 28mm undead ghoul. And obviously, it's well beyond its funding target. And I really like these ones here, the kind of crawling ghoul.
It's too gross for me.
Too gross for you?
Yeah.
You don't think you'd ever do like a flesh eater Orcs army then?
No. No, when I had a Vampire Counts army, I did paint a unit of ghouls. But they were really annoying because the Games Workshop ones, they're all bent over. So
Yes,
most of the paintwork that you do can't even be seen.
that
you're
is
looking down
true.
at the model, you see the backs.
That is very true. So with ghouls, if you're painting the GW ghoul, you do want to put most of your effort into painting the face and the spine. That's what you're going to see. Yeah, these are nice. I thought I'd bring those to the world's attention. I know Annie is a massive fan of ghouls. She's got maybe the world's most extensive ghoul collection.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I don't think she has the most ghouls, but she might have the most unique. I think she's just got one of every ghoul that's ever been made. So I'm sure she's going to get some of ghouls. So, what's been going on in the world of Remington?
Well, I've been a bit ill, so that's been going on. Yeah, I've just not got back on the painting wagon yet. I've got a giant purple sun model waiting to be painted still. But I'm one of those, like once I get into the groove, I get a lot done. But at the minute, I mean, I've got some swampage orcs to do. Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm in a bit of a blank space at the minute.
I think
a lot of guitar.
we need to get a
I've been
game of
playing.
something in, and I think that'll rekindle your hobby spark, won't it?
Yeah, maybe. I've been just playing Total Warhammer 2 as well. So I haven't even played the third one yet. I haven't got it. The second one, they did a bunch of like updates that I didn't notice, and I've been playing Empire, and they've got these different sort of rules about them, where you have fealty to different lords, got new magical weapons and stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed playing that. Really hard as well. Really hard.
I've actually just started Total War Warhammer 3 tutorial campaign, which is Kislev trying to take on some demons. And obviously it teaches you all the basics of how to play the game, which isn't really necessary for veterans like us, but it also familiarizes you with some of the new systems in the game and the way, for example, Kislev, how their settlements work and whatnot. I don't think I've had any walled settlements yet. But the sieges, the new siege battles, are very interesting.
Oh.
Yes, because previously, in the previous Total War Warhammer games, sieges were quite limited, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can actually have more of a full city fight.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So more similar to the old medieval games where you'd go around the entire city.
Got you. So it's not like once you breach the wall, you've pretty much done it, haven't you?
No, because now you can like barricade the streets, and you can take over different parts of the city. So while you're occupying it, the defenses there will be active, and then if you're driven out, you'll have to fall back to the next layer.
Okay, so it sounds like it takes a lot more time then.
Potentially, but it's a lot more interactive. the old sieges.
So, what are your thoughts so far? Are you enjoying it? You think it's
I'm
better,
enjoying it so
worse?
far. I haven't tried the main campaign yet because I'm still on the tutorial one. But
Right, okay.
it's got my seal of approval so far.
And what are the playable races?
Well, again, I haven't tried the campaign yet, so I haven't actually seen the menu. But as far as I can tell, got Kislev, got all the demons, and I don't know who else, because those are the races that I've actually run into so far.
Cathay, ogres?
I would assume those are all playable from the start.
All right.
No sign of Chaos Dwarves yet, though. Maybe there'll be a DLC.
Yeah. So talking of Warhammer, then, did you have you watched the the new cartoon on it?
The Tower one.
Yeah, I saw the first part.
What did you think? I've seen that.
It's very short, but it was amazing.
Do you think it measured up to the Blood Angel one?
Yeah, I do. It's funny because in the Blood Angels one, you're just on the side of the Imperium, aren't you? But in the Tau one, you're suddenly on the side of the Tau, and the Imperium look, already look menacing, dark.
They do look terrifying, depending on your perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't look particularly glamorous and heroic in Angels of Death either, to be fair. They still had, you could see, based on what they were up against though, you could still favour them. So what they were up against was kind of more frowny, evilly types.
Yeah.
But you didn't get the impression they were all that wholesome. But
No, I mean, there's something about the Tao which is, all about the greater good and unifying people and peaceful stuff. Well, more peaceful. They seem to be much more affable. However, I guess if you don't accept their way, then they annihilate you.
I assume, yes, I think that's what everyone in the 40k universe eventually does if you don't get on board with their plans. But Tau haven't had a lot of representation since there was the Fire Warrior game, which I think was on the PlayStation in the late 90s, maybe. And I think that was well received, and they never did anything else in that series. So, yeah, a bit more exploration in their culture, other than just on the tabletop. So, I don't think this is going to be a particularly long episode. I know that Mr. Remington is feeling a bit under the weather. I can feel my voice disappearing as well, slowly. I had a bit of a non-COVID cough last week. What have we got lined up soon? So we need to play a game, really, don't we? That's the most important thing now. Get back in the game.
I've got a big show on Saturday, so once that's done,
get that out of the way, and then on to the important things like gaming. And then that will rekindle your painting spirit, put you in the zone. Fair to say.
I think I'd like to try out my Cities of Sigmar. Yeah,
Certainly do that.
I'd like to try them out. I've got the book. It'd be fun to bring them out. Get a Luminarch fish out there to just blow away one of the dragons. It'd be fun.
And people also want you to play Kings of War as well.
Yeah, well, you'd have to tell me. I mean, I've got halflings ready to go, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, we could even arrange to play that at Mantic HQ time if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I've got everything. I've got a bit of everything, barring the flyers.
Yeah, you could definitely make a decent halfling list out of what you've got.
Yeah.
So, folks, if you demand that Remington samples the delights of King of War, make it known. Chat or in the comments if you're not watching live. And don't forget, as we stare at the beautiful episode thumbnail, back next week Don't forget to check out all the links in the description, including subscribing to Remington's channel if you really feel like it. Don't forget to join the Facebook group, the Discord server, if you want us to look at your painted miniatures on the show. Do a bit more of when slightly longer episode up soon. And if you want to keep this channel afloat during these dark, turbulent times, don't forget to donate all your money via Patreon as well. So, do you have any farewell parting words for the week, Mr. Remington?
Yeah, just you know, try and enjoy some sunshine, hear the birds singing, blossoms blossoming, you know, the terrible news out there in the world. At least enjoy the simple life.
Yes. During these dark times, which we thought were getting lighter, and now they've been darkened yet again, you need the Andy and Rem show on a ski. So Colin says halflings versus trolls, so he wants to see some Kings of War action, predictably. And see you next week, folks. Means to be said now is good night out there, whatever you